Welcome to the Build It Better podcast powered by FrameCAD. I'm your host, Robert Johnson, and we're on the road for this episode in beautiful Orlando, Florida. Temperature was great, weather was a little rainy, but we got our geek on at Intellisteel. I'm speaking with Stanley Adwell, and this is the first part of a two-part series that you won't want to miss. You'll want to get every piece of information that we can share with you in your hands and to equip you to better speak to your customers and to the industry in general. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Take two with Stanley Adwell from Intellisteel in beautiful Orlando, Florida. So actually, this was probably about take three. But we tried this once before. We got some of the best stuff ever on film. I do have the film, I just don't have the audio. So thank you for doing this again.
Yeah, that was a good one. I thought that was great too.
Man, it was like we got done. We were so pumped.
Yeah,
and it was like, okay, well, whatever. So thank you. Mm-hmm. And for the sake of repeating ourselves, tell us about you and what Intellisteel does, and kind of the PR pitch, Dog and Pony Mini.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So I'm the CEO and founder of Intellisteel. We started in 2013. So we've had the company running since then, and before that I was the managing director at FrameCAD for North, Central, and South America. And FrameCAD.
I know those guys.
Yeah, those guys. So I had an opportunity of getting introduced into this technology in 2013 and had a chance to go kind of around the world to see it before I got fully involved. And it was obvious to me that this was the shift that was coming, and it just wasn't in the U.S. yet.
And how long ago?
That was 2013.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was with FrameCAD for about 4 years, and then started Intellisteel. And we've gone through all the paces of Intellisteel. We're a complete design, engineering, manufacturer for entire superstructures, focused mostly on commercial. Mm-hmm. But now it seems like single family build to rent has kind of bled into the marketplace. Mm-hmm. We're also a certified modular manufacturer, so from here to California. So we also do modular. That's probably a smallest portion of our business, but it's present, and we're capable of doing it. So we were one of the fewer people that were doing it with cold form steel versus everyone else who typically does it with wood. And we're shipping. We've got a 135,000 square foot factory here, which you just toured, Robert, and then we've got a 35,000 square foot factory that we just opened in November of 2023, in San Marcos, Texas, right between Austin and San Antonio.
The motherland.
The motherland. That's what they say.
That's the motherland for me.
Yeah. So the motherland. So we're the thing about Texas is that it's surprisingly fast growing right now for cold form steel.
Wow.
So we're now looking at June 1, expanding that to 85,000 square feet. So
and how many square feet do you have here?
135,000 here.
Okay.
So between them, we'll have 10 machines and a couple of large ones. And I think that we're probably one on the larger side of FrameCAD users, but we've also been doing it a long time. So you kind of accumulate hardware and machines, scars, pain, successes, all of that, right?
Yeah, PTSD.
Yeah, get a little bit of that.
Of things.
It's all good.
So one of the things that's odd about that you mentioned, 2013, you got in this as it was we're now in 2024.
Yeah.
And it really, finally, is starting to turn.
Oh, no.
I mean, what I would call finding. Okay, so for years, it's just been this creep. We're trying to gain ground. We're about to get a hold. You think? Have you seen that shift? Truly seen that shift?
It's absolutely present, and it is happening in staggering speed. And the reason for that is because COVID exposed wood for what it has always been for decades, which no one ever decided to change away from because they didn't have to. There was enough demand going on so I got involved in 2013, and why it interested me was America was just coming out of the doldrums of the 09s and 10s, right? So now building is coming back on board. Demand is going to start to soar. As it does, you're going to have the same problems with labor, material, supply chain, et cetera. So that's what enticed me about it. This just answered and solved all of those problems. So then you go through the paces as I did, both at FrameCAD, working on education and laying a platform and a groundwork to get people positioned for this, thinking that it would go faster, and it just didn't. It just,
right.
Because at that time, everybody was growing so quickly, right? So no one had time to learn something new, to try something new, to take a risk. That's not a fault of anyone's. It's just everybody was busy enough and happy to be busy after 08, 09, and 10, that now let's just do what we do best as fast as we can. That takes you all the way into 2020. When you hit 2020 and you hit 2021, you get COVID, all of a sudden now COVID has sent the prices of wood through the roof. And you have a break in the supply chain, you have a break in the quality of material, you have a break in the quality of labor, you have the inaccessibility of labor. All of those things painted this picture of there has to be a change. It wasn't us, it wasn't anything that we did, it wasn't anything that any of the users did, it was the moment in which
it was.
You always look for this catalytic moment, right?
Yeah.
It was that moment when now they had to find a solution because wood was not on the table.
Stuff just didn't pencil anymore.
And it was actually getting worse and scarier and less.
Yeah.
It was a lot more risk at least. And then the next thing is concrete. Well, what's in the middle? It's us. We sit right in the middle. And no one knew about it. So I started to see in 2021, 2022, now you start having inquiries in 2022. Now everybody's feeling the jolt of what's just happened. You get through 2022, everybody's starting to inquire. You're seeing the sophistication rise on the understanding of cold form steel. 2023 hits, and now you have a double whammy. You have Hurricane Ian hits in late 2022. Which destroys the insurance industry for wood. Then you have right behind that in March of 2023, you have the interest rates start to hike, and they hike 6 times. All of a sudden now, the market tightens up, the financing tightens up, the insurances tighten up, and now deals don't pencil at all. Right? The only thing that does start to pencil is cold form steel.
It fixes so many of those things that you just talked about.
Right. And that being the case, it put cold form steel on the map. Just as you mentioned in the IBS show that you went to, I knew before you guys even went that there was going to be a completely different story when you got there, because I am sitting here watching my own business just explode. And I'm seeing it with people coming at us with a little bit more education, a little bit more interest, and a lot more desire. Now, all of a sudden, we are seeing what should have been 5 years ago, 7 years ago.
That we expected to see.
We
were hoping to see. So interesting, so that you bring this up, and I'm a sales guy, unfortunately, don't hold it against me. But that IBS show, to give you an example, because you know this, you know from being at FrameCAD, you know how it's been, and the number of, and I'll use it, leads that you get out of an IBS show or something like that. And there's a lot of tire kickers. We're always going to have tire kickers. Out of this show this year, and I'm just Western North America, Canada down to Mexico, I walked away with 75 really honest to goodness, we see
leads,
it,
real qualified.
we see it, not just, hey, how much is your machine? Really wanting to look into it for all of its benefits. Just crazy. And
I'm not surprised.
So for our listeners and viewers, I'm sitting in Orlando, Florida, at Intellisteel's global headquarters. We'll say that because you'll be everywhere before too long. National headquarters for sure. And I'm looking at their marker board, and I was trying to do the math real quick. I just stopped. I'm in a lot of offices. I thought the last office that I saw, their board was a big number, and I thought it was like, wow, I was very impressed. Roughly, how many 100,000 square feet, how many millions of square feet do you have, in the pipeline?
So in the pipeline, we've got probably right now somewhere around 14.1 million. Now that pipeline extends all the way out through 2025 and even bleeds into 2026. Yeah. So it's a 2.5 year, let's call it a 2.5 year window. But it's March.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's March. And of those, what I would tell you right now is that what we have in engineering right now is somewhere around, that's in physical engineering, is about 3.3 million and growing. And they keep kind of popping into engineering now, so we're starting to add them. So it looks more like 6.9 million.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you clarified that, because this is, and
it's a long sales cycle.
Thank you.
Hugely long sales cycle.
This is really, I mean, you work on stuff sometimes years, a couple of years.
Yeah.
It can be easy.
Oh, yeah.
Before something is to the engineering, finally going to turn into something real and go to production.
Well, even that board you're looking at, too, you bring up a point, because that board would have moved a lot earlier, a lot faster, a lot sooner. But it was the 2023 tightening down of the financial market and the insurance market that kind of slowed everything up, where everybody had to go back and figure out their capital stack, right? So all of a sudden now we bring an insurance solution into the picture. We apply that in. They have to go back to their capital stack and their financiers, redo their numbers. They have to reapprove it. It's almost like they have to redo the process again. Yeah. So that probably halted that up some. But now what's happened is those have now started, they've baked in. And now we've gotten to the point where we're competing against wood and beating wood on every deal. And then you've got insurance on top of that. Then you're starting to see these other things that we're getting quantifications of $1 a square foot on these large projects on waste alone. $1 a square foot. Mm-hmm. I didn't ever think it was going to be that high. That's what our customers are telling us.
Right.
So, things.
Now I've got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because I think I misheard you. I say that in jest. You're already beating wood.
Yeah.
And then you take into consideration insurance.
Then it's everything else.
So you're beating wood head to head before you ever get into any of what I call the pro forma wins.
100%.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And here's, Stephen, the craziest part, which I'll talk to you about what I thought we would be doing against wood. I didn't think it would be where it's at. We're doing that and shipping from Florida and Texas to Michigan, South Carolina, Arizona, St. Louis, Alabama, Florida. So that's all that shipping on top of that.
And we talked about this earlier. I asked the number, and I don't know why I didn't think about this being there. But we're talking in shipping. You're
from $2,000 to $4,000 a pop.
A load.
A load. These got 165 loads in them.
Thank you. I was going to say 100,000 square foot's about 100 loads.
Yeah.
So you're talking a big shipping number that your wood guys that's not in their number. I mean, some shipping is clearly, but
think about the opportunity that is for other users out there, right?
Yeah,
because if they're in that region,
closer,
if you're closer, right?
And I was kicking your butt,
right?
Oh man,
well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm going to the bank.
What I'm saying is that for all new users and all users that are out there that are in a market, if someone can come into the market and beat it from afar, imagine what's in store for them.
Yeah,
local.
And we say this over and now. Here's the win for the early adopters, which you clearly were one of.
Painful adopters is what I call it.
No, okay. Let's be honest.
It's painful
adopters. Because we had to figure it all out.
Yeah.
We had no knowledge. No. We're kind of embarrassed about it, but we didn't know anything. We saw this. It was great. We felt it.
Oh yeah.
But we didn't know how to do it. We have a head start clearly on the guys that are starting today.
Yeah.
But the guys that are starting today have the advantage of everything that us old-timers have brought through it.
They do.
We talked about
thankfully
engineering and just the way we've brought along other people, developers, owners, subcontractors, engineers, you name it. And so it's going to make that, for the new adopters, it's going to make that curve much less.
Oh, sure. Faster. Okay. Thankfully, though, I mean, I think it's great because it's not about individual wins in this industry. It's about it's a collective win, right? So
there's so much. I mean, even with this big board,
I'm not touching anybody.
What are we in the market? I mean, when you not just residential market. Let's just talk about commercial and residential.
We're not even touching the market.
We're not even a bleep on the radar.
And nobody is to anybody else next to them.
No.
That's how much room there is in this space.
You could have another one just a quarter mile down the road.
I do here. I have people here. I have people that are 15 miles from me, and I have someone that's 25 miles from me.
And here's the thing.
Never see them, and we collaborate. I'll even buy material off them because they've got a machine I don't have.
And here's the thing. Yeah, exactly. No, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why not?
Why not?
Hey, I've got. You're doing it. You're all building within the same system. I'll just share some files. You turn this stuff for me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Got it. It's just a win-win.
It's a win.
Yeah, we're never going to, I say never. The chances of us saturating the market like wood, it'd be fantastic. It's not going to happen. But
here's the thing that people have got to understand is that wood has never improved. It has only gotten worse. In every aspect.
Absolutely true.
That's everything from the material, its quality, its density, its strength, its availability, its cost, and its labor. So there's nothing that's improved with wood over decades. So it was obviously a time for technology to insert itself, a better product and material to insert itself. And by bringing the better product in, by doing it in a more advanced way, by bringing all of that to bear, this is where change happens. This is what the catalyst of cold form steel was always about, what it should be about, and it's where the market is moving towards.
So I've always used the copper and PEX analogy.
Yeah.
You know, man, when PEX came out, now I'm never going to get rid of my copper.
Right.
And now you don't
Everybody
see copper.
said that, yeah.
I started using a new one because I always, when I talk about timber on multifamily jobs, and you know, they cut the bands and you drive by a week later and they're building canoes in the parking lot. So, I mean, that's what trees were. I mean, they were hollowing them out and making boats out of them back in the jungle days, you know, in the Amazon or wherever. They don't even build boats out of wood anymore. I mean, it's technology has gotten to the place that there is something better. There's a better alternative. Don't just use it because you've always used it. But, okay, I digress. We need to talk about insurance more. You've really done a lot of work over the last year and a half, more so than most in the insurance piece. I have always said, and the reason I made that point a moment ago is that I always said, you look at us from a pro forma perspective, we're going to beat wood because builder's risk, general ongoing property insurance is cheaper, so forth and so on. But now when you take into the account that you can beat wood and the insurance benefits, you really make this very, very attractive for developers. Why is it such a big deal with insurance? What's insurance seeing today that they didn't before?
Having spent enough time with the insurance companies trying to knock on the door and trying to get them to listen, it wasn't really until Hurricane Ian came in, and I think after the successive amount of catastrophes that happened across the U.S., from the wildfires in California, the tornadoes and floods in the middle of the country.
Wildfires in Hawaii.
Well, now in Hawaii, right? And then you've got the hurricanes that hit in the Carolinas, Texas, and Florida. You know, they're taking a beating. No different than talking about the opportunity for them to recognize that there has to be a change because it's not getting better for them. So when they came through and I started speaking with them, they actually shared with me what what it looks like for them in claims. And their claims, whether it's regional or national, have this category where it basically states on their top line, it's category risk, right? Category claims. And that category claims are going to be seismic, hurricane, flood, fire, and I think that's it on those four. And that number is their top line claim payout number, and it's huge. Then the second item is water intrusion. And water intrusion creates a subcategory of 6 items: repair, maintenance, medical, replacement, mitigation, et cetera. And that's in the second largest category of number. And then the third one is pests, termite, carpenter ants, worms now. Worms are becoming an issue in wood, by the way. So now you take those 3 categories, which probably equate to about 65 or more % of their entire claims that they pay out. That's their expense line. And you mitigate that, let's just be conservative and call it by 50% with metal. It's much more than that. because it's impervious to pests. It's impervious to, water intrusion. You're resistant to fire and flood, unlike really anything else, and seismic. Now you've changed their expense line item. Now you've changed their profitability. Now you've given them the ability to come back into the game, to come back into the market and become that call.
Where they were saying, I'm not insuring this anymore.
Well, the developers would say it's their worst call, right? The insurance guys would say that the worst call for them was having to be called by the developers because they were going to have to tell them that their rate was hiked by 2, 3, 4 times. That shut the deal down. That means that person was picking up the phone to get a denial that they weren't going to be able to they weren't going to be able to make money. Their business is now going stall. They're going to stall. So now they become the option, the alternative, like we were to wood. They became the option now. Now I can say, I can save you 50%, 60%. We've seen 88% savings on just the changes of cold form steel. So when you put that into pro forma, it'll actually take a deal from not penciling to pencil. And when you have somebody who holds that and takes that over a 5, 7, 10-year pro forma, that's millions and millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
So the insurance industry is just waking up, like the construction industry has woken up to the fact that cold form steel provides the advantages, it provides the opportunity, and it provides a better solution across the board.
Yeah, no, 100%. And these are the things that no kick to you GCs out there, because I hope there's thousands upon thousands that are watching and listening that will continue after what I'm about to say is, for us in this business, general contractors is not who the fabricator, the assembler, the manufacturer really caters to. Yes. Although I will say this about general contractors. If you want your subcontractors to never go look for another job, put them on one of these jobs.
Yeah.
Because they're going to learn that they can sit in a trailer, no offense, for hours, and because it's first floor is done, guess what? Second floor is exactly like the first floor. No different. Any problem that shows up down there, and then it's solved all the rest of the way. I've had 100% tell me it's the easiest job they ever managed.
Cleanest too.
And the cleanest.
Nothing's
We haven't even talked about that.
Yeah.
Waste.
But this is important. We tend not to cater to general contractors because it's not their fault that they're not in the position to affect change.
No.
Right? Because
you're a general contractor.
Well, and so I started out selling to general contractors, and it didn't work well.
Right.
Then I went to owners and developers. And there was a period of time which I thought that the general contractors were working against me. And I did have this negative feeling.
I had this adversarial feel
I did, but then it dawned on me later on when I started to look at the cake that's been baked that they're eating.
Yeah.
They're looking at a set of plans that are usually 60%. They're half done. They're half baked. They're not even buildable. And the general contractor is tasked with the idea of, I've got to build this.
Exactly.
And I got to build this with the type of labor that I'm dealing with. It's going to be fluctuating. It's going to be fluid. I think it's almost, when I started looking at it from that perspective, I realized the general contractor's in an unfair position, and they're trying to price in risk, price in inefficiencies.
That's their business model. They're trying to figure out how to get this done now.
And just to protect themselves, right? So they're pricing in inefficiencies, deficiencies that are not theirs and that were designed by somebody else, not them. If they had the option to say, I would build it this way, they don't have that voice. So they're really stuck with that. And I think it's an unfair advantage to the general contractors. That still doesn't change the fact that when you get to a general contractor, at least in my business, he's going to build what was given to him to the best of his ability, and that's what he's going to try and do. But we go after the owners and the developers to influence with them, with their architects, on what should be built that's faster and easier, and we're thinking about the contractor. I'm thinking about the general contractor.
I'm seeing more GCs go into design build where they have more say in that early on.
They do. That's happening. And I think too, the general contractors we're developing good relationships with general contractors because they're recognizing that I'm thinking about their design before it even touches the paper on the plans, before it hits them. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, you say clash detection to some general contractors.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
Yeah.
We do clash detection when you start building.
Yeah.
And I've been a part of that, you know. And now it's because there's so much more work done. that people don't see in the design and engineering phase, where you're solving all that stuff. You're one of the things that I preach to people I talk to is, you as that engineer, that designer, you can spin that model and send it out to those people, knowing that this is the way it's going to be built. All the clash detection is done in the engineering phase. And so not only does it talk about all these efficiencies that CFS brings us, brings the GC, brings the developer, look at what it's doing for the MEP guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about, the electricians that, we do your holes for you.
Yeah.
The majority of them, you might have to break out a drill and drill one or two. But the plumbers, all of this stuff, and it makes everybody's job more efficient. The millwork people. I talk to when I talk to builders, production home builders, and even multifamily. Order your millwork now. What do you mean? Now, we gave you the shop drawings. That's exactly how it's going to be in the field. Order your millwork now. Oh no, my millwork guy, he wants it drywalled before, and he wants to go out and field measure every single opening before. And I understand why. You don't have to do that.
That's the past inefficiencies that have been baked into the process.
And that guy, that developer, is paying for it.
Yeah.
Because, you have to wait until the guy comes out. So that's time, that's labor they got to come out and do. Yeah, it goes on and on and on and on.
I think where the industry is changing too in this developer general contractor role is that what we do gives the developer the opportunity to have a building to come out the way that it was originally designed for the architect, by the architecture, right?
How often does that happen in lumber?
Right, never, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that the developer also is starting to understand that if we can give the general contractor a better product, higher quality product, he can actually build in a better price, because the general contractor, remember, is having to factor in what he does, the unknowns. All the unknowns. The unknowns are the deficiencies and inefficiencies that we already know are in construction today. So then it's, who bears the brunt of that? The developer goes out and spends a tremendous amount of money entitling land. They take that land and they take risk on that. Then they give it to the architect and say, give me the best product, the best density, whatever I can get out of this to maximize its use for what I'm looking for. The architect draws it.
And factors risk into it.
And factors risk into it of what's going to happen downstream.
Exactly.
And then they give it to general contractors to bid. Now the problem is those documents are only 50%, 60% done, maybe 70 if you're lucky. But this 30% that's in there is so dramatic in cost variance that all of a sudden now the general contractor has to add in what the potential risks of all that extra is. So there is money on top of money on top of money that is being used and spent of the developers, which then trickles down to the general contractor, the subs, and ultimately the end user.
Yeah.
The consumer is buying a product that it's padded 3 different times.
And then there's interest.
Unnecessarily.
And then there's lenders.
Well, everybody's paying interest on that.
Exactly.
So, and then that bakes into the pro forma, and then all of a sudden now you have what we are dealing with today, which is an inefficient, deficient construction industry driven by people who want to do good, who don't have the option to do it because they're not given the opportunity to do it.
Well, that wraps part 1 of this part 2 series with Stanley Adwell with Intellisteel. So let's do what we always do and say, we've all built it the old way. Now let's go build it better. See you next time.